Yeah, these days, not even a bad coffee can spoil them. Just at least in the morning. Leaving today. It's gorgeous again, looking outside. Although it's bitterly cold. I've been there, really bitterly cold, especially the wind. But what is stunning is really here in Finland, in Kuopio, and places like this, it's nature. It's pure nature, and it's a kind of feeling accommodated by nature. It's not something that seems to be external, but it's really accommodating nature. You're diving into it, and you aren't even mentioning it. Of course, photos like this, they don't say anything. They give you an idea if you yourself experience something like this. It reminds me when I lived in Ireland, in Italy, being asked for the way to I don't know where. You frequently started, well, you go straight away there, straight along, and then there's a church, and you turn left at the church and go another, and then you think, well, you just wanted to look at or point at another landmark, another church, and here it's just the lakes. Wherever you go, there is a lake nearby. It's really the country of the lakes, and it's beautiful. It's calm, and it's calm even if there is traffic, if there's noise beginning. Sorry, as I said, bad coffee. Not only bad coffee. So, such a day, the sun is shining, a beautiful view across the lake, beautiful fresh air, really clear, even if it's cold, is a pleasure. Very quiet outside still, and it's just after the stress of the last days, something that is really giving a kind of peace, letting forget about all the problems and tasks and works I still have to face for the next days and weeks. Having said the stress of the last days or weeks, since I moved back from Poland to Germany, the idea was to move into my flat, but there was somebody living in it, which originally had been okay, but there was an agreement that he would leave on a kind of short notice. Short notice does not mean I'm coming today and you have to leave. I asked him by an administrator to leave, and yeah, I didn't hear anything different. It's fine. I'm leaving, and I'm looking actually for accommodation, appropriate accommodation, to move in there. This was originally the idea, actually, that he would look for accommodation and have this flat only for an interim phase. Anyway, that had been said, but not had been done. Because when I asked him again, he said, no, I didn't find anything. And it was going on and going on. And I lived rough. I had been homeless, which in a way was not a nice, but definitely an interesting experience. What it means in terms of psychological distress. You don't know where you belong. You don't know if you belong anywhere. I could at least accommodate myself in terms of having everything I needed, in terms of shower, in terms of a bed, which I don't need anyway because I'm not sleeping more than 2 hours or whatever. Things like this, I didn't have any problems with that. uh, then later I could live in the house of a friend, having a separate apartment where I really lived, possibly even more comfortable. The apartment was possibly even more comfortable than my own. But nevertheless, there's this feeling of not belonging, of a lack of something. Of course, it brought me to this idea of discussing this typical bourgeois thinking in terms of property, of ownership, of being in control. But ownership is the one thing, being in control is the other thing. And this is something where this is not a matter of bourgeois, but this is actually something of civilization, of a higher developed civilization, and where we go actually away of being in control. This is the idea of properly understood enlightenment, and this is the idea of standing there, looking out of the window, the sunset or the rising sun, and saying, yes, I am part of this. I'm truly belonging to this nature, and I'm not outside. It's, of course, as well a question when we come to political things then of I'm not protecting environment, but I am part of this nature, and it's not this self-interest which would suggest then, yeah, of course I'm protecting my nature because I am part of it, but it's a kind of, it's difficult to say, socializing with nature, of belonging, of we have in African tradition the idea of Ubuntu. I am because we are, and we are because I am. It's so different, the understanding, so different to all what we understand in our Western culture. There is a huge difference as well when it comes to Asian traditional culture, although I'm not sure anymore to which extent this really did exist, and to which extent it is not a loss of European culture, a loss of something that we have had. Anyway, leaving this aside, it is something where I think we have to move forward in our discussions, making a proper or developing a proper understanding of where we are going with our thinking in terms of development of urban spaces, in terms of developing our policies when it comes to environmentalism, and it is a serious issue, of course, and it's getting more and more serious. And the young people now, with the Friday demonstrations and then got, and I'm hesitating, got something of it, and I think they to some extent really got this Ubuntu approach. It is not an environment, not outside, not an external nature, but it is us. We are destroying us today by the way of living as we are doing, and. So this little property story, it was of course a very unpleasant thing. I solved it, if you want, by writing first a letter arguing in legal terms, and he replied, no, he claimed he would have received advice from from a legal expert. So I went through the contract as well, again, and I went through other things, and then I argued that he basically should forget it, and his legal expert would not have proper information or would not have the proper knowledge, but there would be no way of claiming the right to live there. He is not depending on it. He has another accommodation. There was this prior agreement, and actually his current contract was not valid anymore at all. Well, different and more or less complicated stories, but I said, forget it. These are the rules. This is the law, and I will come on Monday or Tuesday and open the door and change the lock. If there is anything left from you, I will put it in front of the house and you can collect it, but that's it, full stop. To be honest, it worked out, and that is what counts. Now, it is a matter of being in control in different ways in terms of daily living on the street, but as well in a matter of being in control of having the knowledge and self-confidence to make a case, to stretch it to a certain degree, possibly overstretch it, and as well to dive into something or to allow something to encapsulate you as nature. Very different things, I agree, but this is the beauty I perceive, at least, having occasionally this space of experiencing the complexity, really, of what life is about. It is not just the one moment, one event, which is, of course, enjoyable as well, possibly, or is very upsetting, but it is this knowledge and experience of the concrete being the condensation of the complexity of this world. Making you cry because it is upsetting, it is sad, or making you cry because it is so enjoyable and enlightening, or whatsoever, relieving. But as well, simply the question of harmony, if you want, of a knowledge of belonging, but as well things belonging to each other, working with each other, being integrated. Major problem of course for our societies today, when we are permanently confronted with things are not belonging to each other, things are falling apart, we are doing our little pieces, possibly do them well, but being permanently confronted with the border that this is nothing that has any meaning. As Niklas Luhmann said, but it hadn't been only him, and he hadn't been actually the first one who said this, we can do so many things, but we cannot change anything. So we have all the options, we have all this freedom but it is not integrated, it is not part of a larger setting. So, yeah, it is a certain beauty in this as well, sometimes in this tension of being confronted with what life is about, but as well what it means at the same time, the knowledge or the experience of we can do it. As individuals, we have the responsibility as well. This is actually another part of my satisfaction when I said in the beginning, nothing can or not even a bad coffee can spoil a great beginning of a day. The awareness of the PhD thesis that had been defended yesterday, where I had been opponent, and the awareness or my conviction that I have to be honest in marking it, in coming to a conclusion, which I will do, and the conviction that there is something in academia. I'm struggling with it at the moment in particular. There is something in academia where Max Weber actually had been very right, very correct, and in my reading at least, misinterpreted. There is a professional standard, and this is already a value. So academic work, scientific work is not free of value, value free, because it is committed to this kind of truth, of this kind of beauty, even if we know this is based in our interest of moving forward. Some of the critique may have been wrong there, to say, no, we have to argue on the basis of values. We have to include political values. Aren't we doing this as soon as we claim that our work as academics, our scientific work, is something that is genuinely part of social, societal movement, and as such, it is progressive, and as such, it is on the side of those who are profiting from moving on, not profiting from exploiting the current situation. So in this way, the beauty of a value-free valuation, or value-free taking the position of progress, of moving things on and moving us, not back into nature. I'm not going with Rousseau there, but at least moving us back into control as well of all the progress we make. And moving us means not moving us, or not only moving us personally there, but moving us as a society. Maybe something that can help as well to cope with some difficulties in life.